Welcome to Life Coaches Unfiltered, where Desiree, Doree, and Michelle, three life coaches, are here to answer the questions you have, but we're afraid to ask. No fluff, no filters, just real talk to help you navigate life's big challenges. Let's dive in.
Hey, y'all, welcome back to another episode of Life Coaches Unfiltered. So, how do you tell if your relationship is a smoldering pile of toxic hot garbage, like the stuff you'd find in a dumpster fire? Sometimes it's hard to see it when you're in it day after day. So, that's what we're talking about today on Life Coaches Unfiltered. We'll talk about some of the signs of a toxic relationship that you might have been trying to ignore because honestly, sometimes it just feels easier to put up with the bullshit instead of starting all over. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes. Mm.
Did that hit a little too close to home?
Hmm.
Anyway,
Yeah.
let's do a little check-in. We're all just kind of, man, midlife is hitting us hard. So,
Ooh. Yes,
yeah.
it is. Oh my
Hmm.
God.
I wonder if my mom's life was this much of a dumpster fire during her midlife years, or if she was just better at hiding it than I am, or if we just know that, like, because of the internet, we know that we're not alone in it. I don't know. Like, do they just suffer in silence?
I think so. Because yeah, I think they suffered in silence. And if you think about back in the day, they didn't talk about it.
No.
They're just going to keep it to themselves. They're just going to deal with it and push through. And nowadays, Nyla wants to join in the conversation. Um, Nowadays, we've got so much information. We've got lots of women who are advocating for women going through midlife, and that wasn't there back then. I mean, granted, I don't know because I probably wasn't born. I was like a twinkle in my dad and my mother's eye. So yeah, but I think there's more information out there now than there was previously.
I think it was a different generation too, where you just don't
Yeah.
talk about things. You
Mm-mm.
just kind of you suck it up and you deal with it and that sort of thing. I think it was very different. I think it just in general, like around across the board, that the world has changed. And I think you're right with social media, we talk about everything now, and we're very conscientious of, all of the different topics out there and are more open to talking about things. I remember like, when something happened, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that. Heaven forbid the neighbors find out we're not perfect, that kind of thing. So even menopause now, I'm blessed to have my parents still on this earth. Even now, talking to my mother about like menopause and that sort of thing is just sort of kind of like, I was like, hey, did you ever have X, Y, and Z? She goes, nope. But you don't talk about any of the other things like hormones and things like that. So anyway, that's kind of, yeah. So
Yeah. Well, how are y'all? I mean, aside from we don't need to share all the personal deets about what all of us are dealing with, but it's like, we do have some privacy, even though we're unfiltered.
yeah, well, if anybody who watches our video will see, I'm not in my normal spot. I'm like sitting on the couch today with a heating pad because my back is twisted. So, and so so Nyla has come to like join the podcast today and be a part of the conversation. So,
Awesome. 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 Well, she's welcome. Anything else y'all want to share before we jump in?
Well, it was Easter, so what
Yeah.
did you get lots of Easter eggs?
I ate more robin eggs, and no, they are not, I did not harvest them from a bird's nest. Although I had some weird stuff happen in my yard last week. I had wildlife that decided to expire in my yard. Now,
Oh,
granted, it was small wildlife, but two members of the wildlife community. So I ended up burying squirrels. It was it's
like
not
plural?
pleasant. There was a big squirrel, like an adult, and he sat out there and I was like, "Hey, Mr. Hawk, you want a meal?" And I was like, no, I feel bad for him. So he was in a very prominent place. So I buried him. And then a couple days later, I found a baby squirrel.
Oh
And
no.
before I could bury him, the nature's cleanup crew took care of him. But yeah,
Oh.
I was like, what is happening? Do I need to sage my yard? Like, please no. Like, I think maybe it was the mama squirrel that something happened to them, and then maybe the baby didn't get fed, but I wish I would have found the baby when I could have helped the baby. Anyway, it was really sad. And I was like, what is the universe trying to tell me? It was just not,
Mm-mm.
it's not, it was a sad week. Yeah, I was like, can I get my book of common prayer and do a little burial for them?
Mm.
Yeah, so this has been I don't know. Easter was Easter. I don't We went to music bingo last night. Because it was Easter, there were like six of us in the restaurant.
Oh,
So
wow.
we all won.
We
That's
all
awesome.
won. Everyone's a winner. You're a winner. You're a winner.
That's
Like
it.
the participation trophy of music bingo. It was fantastic.
That's so
So
funny.
anyway, it was a lot of fun, but I can't complain. I'm hooking more people on music bingo with my favorite DJ, and
I'm
it's
excited to come do this with you. This will be awesome. You know that,
well,
you
I've
know,
roped some more people in from our networking group. So
there we
Oh,
go.
cool.
It's awesome.
anyway, just you will have more familiar faces if you decide to come.
Shall you have a good holiday?
Yeah, it was pretty relaxing. Went out to brunch yesterday, me and my hubby, and yeah. And then I took him to the Cab's Farmers Market.
I've never
He-
been there.
he's never been, and he was just like, "Oh my God, this place is amazing. Oh my God, I want that. I want that." And I was like, no."
I
But
once
yes, it was
I
overstimulating.
I worked with someone who picked where she bought her house because it was in between DeKalb's farmers market and our office. Like that's where she decided to buy a house.
Yeah. I mean, it's an experience. It's an experience.
That's awesome.
Oh my God. All
Yeah.
right, Doree, you got any? How was your weekend?
It was good. It was good. I like cleaned, did a lot of cleaning. Maybe that's why my back
I was
hurts. I
just
don't
about to
know.
say that was
But
what
it's
that.
the back thing's been going for a while. I cannot do as much as I used to do, and that's frustrating for me to do that. Like I'm used to being able to move and do things and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I was cleaning and it just was not, yeah, I had to stop halfway through and lay down on the floor for a bit, and then I get up and start going again. So, but otherwise it was a good weekend. I love spring, and it's a happy time for me. Spring is because it's just a reminder that everything is like renewed.
Mm.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I woke up yesterday and my whole body was hurting. And I went and did like 30 minutes of yoga, and it was like, I was like, why am I not doing this every day? What is wrong with you, Desiree? So, yeah, I I feel the call to start teaching yoga again, and that makes me trepidatious. I'm very trepidatious about that.
Oh, look at you using big
Oh
words.
no, I don't know where I must have borrowed that one from the library. They'll be requesting me to return that one soon. All right, so let's talking about trepidation. Let's talk a little bit about some what are like let's talk about some dumpster fire relationships. Like I think when we were I don't know if it was my experience from being young. Like I thought everybody grew up in the same house. We grow up in these households, these little we're steeped in the tea of dysfunction of our family dysfunction, and we don't even realize that it is dysfunctional. And so we think everybody thinks like us and everybody has
Yep.
similar experiences. And so like my early relationships were so ridiculously stupid, dysfunctional. Even my marriage was dysfunctional to a large degree. I mean, it's why I'm not married anymore, but um yeah, so like what do you think? let's just talk in general about like dumpster fire relationships. How have they shown up in your life? Like for me, it was dating, but also my friendships. Some of my friendships. I would tolerate things and then the pressure cooker would go, like Michelle says.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I would stuff and I was so nice and the little people pleaser. And then when I got fed up, you definitely knew.
Yeah. I mine started very young. My dumpster fire relationships very, very young. It was just a picking the wrong person, or being with the wrong person because of, the red flags. I think that's you can't have a dumpster fire without red flags, right? But we choose to ignore the red flags. A joke in my comedy about red flags being fun, because it's just you don't know what you're going to get and you kind of ignore the signs and that sort of thing. But yeah, my dating life, oh, my first two marriages, oh, dumpster fire, dumpster fire, dumpster fire. I mean, like, even the breakups are like a huge dumpster fire. It's like I've only, the ones I can, I can usually tell the ones that are not so toxic are the ones that end with peace. And when it is time to end, they end with peace.
I will say that the last couple of relationships I've had have ended with peace, which is good.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Maybe it's our maturity level or the kind of, because I think we're going to talk, you know, in another episode about dating in midlife. But I think that you get to a certain point where you're just, if it's toxic as shit, it's gonna blow up and it's gonna end exactly the way. I mean, I just picture like a dumpster and somebody flicking a match at it and just going, burn, bitch. It's just kind of like that's what I consider like think of it as, but it ends just as toxic as it was, I feel like, you know.
I mean, mine, I don't, my first, like, I had some relationships, but I had like, the first person I was like really, really attached to was just, I didn't realize, like, he had lied to me about everything, everything about his youth. Like, he was intimidated by me, like, which is hilarious because I am so not intimidating. But I had gone to a private girls school and like, and so he thought like he needed to make himself out to be like way better than he was. I did not find out that he had lied to me about all of this stuff until I became friends with his little brother and he was like, "Oh, he told you that? No, that's not true." And I was like, "Oh my God," like so much stuff he had lied to me about. But he would also drink and then call me and like plan a date for the next day and then forget that he did it and then just stand me up. And why did I keep like talking to this person? This went on for a long time. And then he went off to college. He would do this on the holidays when he came home. And it was just like, I was like, why did I sit there and waste so much of my life on I was like, dang, where was your self-respect, girl? Like, anyway, and that I don't wish him any ill will, but I was like, you, first of all, I would have liked you for who you were. Like, you didn't have to become this crazy imaginative person to be like make up where you went to school and like it was so ridiculous. It's hilarious that his little brother outed him to me. I was like,
That's too funny. Oh my
years
God.
later. Yeah, it was
That is
I was
very
like,
funny.
what is happening? Yeah. So I mean, like I never got into, thankfully I never got into like scary, and I did have one relationship that was I started to get fearful. And when we would fight, I would hyperventilate. And that had never happened to me. And that should have been a huge sign to me that like uh you don't feel safe. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, mine were just like stupid. But it's I was on a date in the last year and I said something to the person and they were like, "Hold on, I'll be right back." And they got up and left from the table and I thought, "Oh my God, did they just get mad at me and leave?" And they came back and I was like, "Oh." like, is everything okay? And they were like, yeah. And they were like, what's wrong? And I was like, well, I thought you got mad at me for this thing that I said, and then you were gonna bolt. And they were like, I'm sorry that you've had this experience. Even crossed your mind. And I was like, oh dear God, like, what does that say about? Yeah. Anyway, it was a little bit of a reckoning for me. It was quite hilarious. But yeah.
That's funny.
Well,
I
once you're in a dumpster fire relationship, it is you know what? It creates, I think, a pattern of dumpster after dumpster after. My first boyfriend, y'all, was so sweet. So sweet, so kind. I was the dumpster fire in that one. Just because of my insecurities and stuff. I was like jealous and like always checking on him and things like that. He was absolutely precious. But the second one after that, it just went downhill from there. It was just like it was crazy. I had one who had lived in the same neighborhood as I did, and I was 17, and he would stand at his window at night and watch for me to come home, and then would be on the phone with me, and my mother's like, "Get off the phone," and he's like yelling at me, and she's yelling. Oh, it was not good. It was not good, but they just continued after that. It was like it was crazy, crazy, crazy.
I think
crazy.
dumpster fire relationships are exciting. That's,
They
Mm.
are.
I mean, it's very much like if you were addicted to the pattern or the person, it's like, oh, it's kind of a game of whack-a-mole. You never know what you're gonna get. But like once it gets to a certain point, it can become scary. Michelle, did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, I'm just listening to both of you because I'm thinking of the relationships that I had like when I was 16, 17. I was just like I didn't really care. But I think I was the one that always put in the effort and the time. And then I found out that, the other people that I was dating were cheating on me and stuff like that. So, I kind of feel that in your younger years, there might be some people who do that now, but in the younger years, we're just naive and thinking that everything's hunky-dory and rosy and life is good and things don't happen. And then, when you experience people cheating on you and you're kind of like, what did I do?
Yeah.
Why did this person cheat on me? What do I need to do and how can I keep them? Not the let's dump them because they're complete trash. You're sitting there thinking, well, what did I do? And then, and I know we've spoken about this person before on other episodes, and I was trying to work out which episode it was. But, there was one person who I was engaged to, and before that, I just kind of finished college, and I think I just got caught up in the moment of, yes, this person wants to marry me and they love me, but I really didn't love them. I was in
Mm.
love with the fact that someone wants to love me and be married. But, this person was toxic for me. And just wanted to control me and tell me where I could go, what I could wear, those types of things. And I was oblivious to it, you know. And then he was trying to, get on my mum's good side. So he would talk to my mother more than he would talk to that I would talk to my mother. So, you just don't think anything about it because you're just like, oh, they're just, forming a relationship and everything like that. So, yeah, I mean, that was a dumpster fire in the fact that there were so many red flags, because A, I never went to his place once, never went to his place once. He didn't invite
Wow.
me. And here's the thing. Him and his brother lived together in an apartment, and I could never go because apparently there was his brother dated some women and then they came and trashed the place or tr slashed tires and everything like that. So I was not allowed to go there. Plus, he had a house that he rented out. Didn't say, oh, we can move these people out and we'll live in the house. And then I go to buy my own place and everything, and he wants to be on my deed and everything. I was like, no. That's not going to happen. I was like, if you want to be on my deed, I'm going to be on your deed. So fair play. You put my name on your four-bedroom house. You can have, once because I bought myself a house, you can put your name on my house. Otherwise, no, this is my shit. My shit. But yeah, never once was able to go to his apartment.
Did
Okay,
you
so
ever find out like
Hello,
why?
red flag, red flag, red flag, red flags. And we didn't live in the same town or anything. Because I lived in London and he lived about 45 minutes away from me, so he would just come and visit me. But I'm just like, oh, let me come to Luton. No, no, can't. No, sorry.
Was he married?
Who fucking knows? I mean, who knows? I
I
have
think
no clue.
you
No
totally
clue. He
you
could have been
dodged a bullet.
married. He could have been married. Who knows?
You dodged a bullet, girl.
I mean, seriously.
So
I mean,
this
I'm sure we're going to talk about more things, and I'll probably focus on that relationship. But yeah, that was. I mean,
so
how many red flags do you need? Like, I can't come and stay at your place, and what? That's
let's
I
talk red flags. Like mine was dude didn't show up. Like just call me and be like, let's go out tomorrow night and then like completely forget about it. Uh
yeah.
you fight and they can't like if you when you disagree, these are some of my like when you have a disagreement, they can't regulate their nervous system and you actually feel afraid. Um that is something that
Hmm.
yeah, I if you can't if you can't have a disagreement and have a discussion and it turns into like a military battle, a military operation, that's usually a big neon sign.
for myself, I think it's when I'm jealous. When my jealousy raises its ugly head, which I rarely am I in relationships like that. But when I do, then that tells me that I'm insecure. And if I'm insecure, then I'm not secure. And so, I have to look at my own red flags that pop up when I'm in a relationship as well, going, that's a sign that something's off if I'm not being me. And but yeah, I mean, I've had them all. I've had them all. Tried to isolate me from my family, which was that was he was a real winner. Just we get mad when I'd spend time with my mother. I'm like, come on, it's my mother, but try to keep me away from my family. Became we have an episode for those listening on gaslighting. Go check that out. That's a gaslighting and dumpster fires go hand in hand usually. Um, so, I mean, all of those different cheating, lying, all of those things. And then, yeah, I even had like this thing with, guys that didn't have jobs. I don't know why. Don't know what that was, but it was like a thing where if they didn't have a job, I was like, come and date me.
I will take care of you and I will cook for
I'll
you.
take care of you, baby. But,
Like
that's
if there's
not,
not an even exchange, right? So like if I am talking to someone and they're never asking how I'm doing, um
yes.
like and it's always about like if there's always drama in their life and it's like the next thing and the next thing and and it's they're taking up all the air in the relationship. This can go for friendships too.
Yeah.
Hmm. For
Yes.
sure. For sure.
Like some
Well,
people are just really good at taking and advocating for their own needs are not much of givers
hmm
You know,
or they're
and this episode is about relationships in general too. So I think that's a good family members too. You can have a dumpster fire relationship with a family member, and we think because we share blood, which by the way, the whole expression blood is thicker than water is people should Google that. That's not the real saying. Um, but people think because you're family that you put up with this garbage that you're handed, and you don't have to. But, you can have a relationship with a family member that's just as toxic as any other relationship.
Yep, you can. And you just talking about having arguments and stuff, Desiree. I mean, it's just it's flooding back memories because this person that I was engaged to would have a temper, and um, some of the stories he would tell me, like seriously, he would if someone like cut him off on the road and stuff like that, he would actually chase them in his car and then somehow get out of his car and get a crowbar and smash a windscreen and stuff like that. And I'm just like, you did what?
Wow.
So anger management issues was definitely something that this person suffered from. Um, and there was a point where I did actually feel unsafe, and that was the point where I was just like, yeah, you know what? No, this is not right. This is not working. And I need you to get the hell out of my house.
Mm,
Because if you lay one finger on me, that's it. That's it. We're done. I'm going to be calling the police, and you are not going to ever step foot in my house again. And, and that was the time where my mum had passed away, and I was just kind of like, my mum would not tolerate this shit from you.
Mhm.
So, you better back the fuck up. Um, but yeah, it got to that point, and I was just like, yeah, no, not happening. No, not gonna be in that situation where I am gonna be physically abused.
good
Um,
for you.
yeah, it was again, it was weird. The fact that I kind of went through that, and yeah,
I think
It's crazy
sometimes
when you look back at this and sorry, Desiree, go ahead.
that's okay. Go. You were on a roll.
I was going to say it's crazy when you look back on some of the things that you've experienced and go, who was that person?
yeah,
I myself was not, didn't have I don't know what the word I'm going to use, the moxie to walk away from an abusive relationship until, I've been in physical abuse situations and, I didn't have the strength or I think it was the self-esteem or something to walk away. This I'm not putting it all on him because listen, it takes two to tango, and I know that part of this was who I brought to the relationship, but to not be able to have he had me convinced where I would never do any better. And I say that I say and that was this was I've been in multiple physical abusive relationships, and it's yeah, you get to a point of where they have, and again, I'm pinning it all, I'm going to take some accountability to some of this too, because I allowed this to happen in my life. But with the time, it was the person that I was that allowed this to happen and how I felt about myself and couldn't see the alternative. And it was, and then you get in a cycle of, well, who is going to have me after I've been in something like this?
Mhm.
Because you feel kind of like, I felt like, I'm just gonna say for myself, I can't speak for other people. I felt like trash
Mhm.
myself because I had been through this situation, and who's gonna want someone damaged like me? And so, it took years of rebuilding, for me, it was also part of my sobriety journey was getting out of the last one was right before I got sober. And so, it just is a thing of being able to realize, for myself, it was just something woke up inside of me and said, this is not the person I want to be. I don't want to be in something like this. I have to get out. And that's actually what started me to get sober was I went to see someone said, help me. I'm with this person and I know that I'm not supposed to be with this person. And part of it was, well, then let's talk about you and what's going on with you. And that's when I decided to stop drinking. So, the drinking definitely didn't help my self-esteem. It did not help, because I was making really poor choices when I was drinking, and it clouded my vision even when I was sober. So anyway, that is I don't know what you got out of that, but
Well, I think
um,
that we have to, at some point, it has to get bad enough for us to say
Hmm.
no more,
Hmm.
right? Like
Yeah.
in the relationship where I started to fear for my safety, it had to get to the point where I was like, when I get to the point where I am crying so much that I'm hyperventilating, this is not okay. And like I didn't even cry like that when my dad died, you know? And that was like a sudden death. Like it was just like I was like, what is but I was like, it's your nervous system has to it has to get to a point, and I don't particularly love Dr. Phil, but he had a really good point saying like we have to be miserable enough to make a change. Like there has
Oh,
to be a discomfort to a level that sparks you to change.
yeah,
And
it's almost like that whole rock bottom thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
but when you were talking about this relationship, Doree, like the gift in my relationships, my dumpster fire relationships, you are taken to that level of, oh my God, nobody's gonna want me. And a lot of times that part of the manipulation is to get you to stay. And then we get into these relationships and we're scared to leave because
Mhm.
we just want to be loved. And then we think that we're unlovable. And then we're told by this person that supposedly loves us that you can't leave because nobody else will want you because
Yeah.
you're such a piece of garbage.
That
And
manipulation is so
and so,
true and so powerful when that happens.
and like we have
It's
this need
horrible.
for belonging, right? So like it makes so much sense. Like so if y'all are out here listening and you're like, "Oh dang, some of this is ringing true." Like don't beat yourself up even more for
Mhm.
staying in that relationship. It's really leaving my marriage was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. It was my choice. And it was still hard and it pissed me off because I'm like, "This is my choice. Why is this hard?" And I tell people like when you're leaving a relationship, that especially a marriage or a long-term thing, it is a decision that you make over and over again. It's not a one-time decision because that draw is going to be there to pull you back to that familiarity. You know the pattern. And it feels comfortable and you want to be loved. And so you want to like you're like, I can just go back and everything's going to be fine. And but what I'm would like to what I think we can all attest to is that doing the hard work of going to therapy, healing, drawing yourself forward is worth it in the end, and work on building that foundation of self-esteem and self-love.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I I I
It's
would
so,
I would
go ahead,
totally agree
Desiree.
with that because I had to have therapy because my mother had passed when we were starting to plan our wedding. And as I said, and I've probably said previously, I'm so glad my mother passed because if she hadn't have passed, I think I would probably marry this person and have a child and probably be divorced by now. But I think going to the therapy actually opened my eyes on what was actually happening in my relationship and what this person was actually doing to me. And for me to kind of have my blinkers on, thinking, oh no, everything's fine. And then that's where the cracks started to happen, where I was just like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do this. And then that's where he started to get angry. And the fact that I had to lie. When someone is lying about where they're going and who they're seeing, that's an issue. That's a big issue. Just like oh my God, now I've gone perimenopause brain here. Um I think Desiree, where you were saying, when you were crying and, hyperventilating to the point, the fact that I had to lie to go and hang out with my friends, that is not something I should be doing. And when I'm telling the therapist, they're like, you were lying to go and see your friends that you've known longer than this person. I was like, yeah, and and they were like, mm-mm, no, there needs to be an evaluation of this because this person is not the right person for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's hard because again, you think, well, shit, who's gonna love me now? And I put up with this and had to deal with this, and I also got into a lot of debt because of this person. Because then, there's a whole story, and if anyone wants to hear it, we can have it over drinks. Um, but I got into a lot of debt with this person because they were struggling with their money and everything, and And so, there was lots of things that came from this relationship. But you know what the best thing was? I cut my hair off after that relationship to just get rid of all the bad karma and all the bad stuff that had happened. And you know what? I've never gone back. I've always been short. But that was the time where I was just like, I need to release all of this crap and nastiness that I kind of went through. It was just horrible. When you look back at it on now, right? But back in the day, in your 20s, you again naive, don't know what you don't know, right?
Yep. It's true. And one of the things I want to say is that, don't be number one, don't be ashamed to go get help.
Mm-mm.
Um, and well, the first time I went to a therapist about like my first husband, she said, "Girl, you need to leave." And I don't know what I was expecting. I don't know if I was expecting her to tell me everything was normal because I didn't leave for 6 more years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I knew something was off like right after our honeymoon. Something was not right. Not our honeymoon, but like our first anniversary, something was not right. Um, yeah, I went to a therapist. She was like, "You need to leave," and I was like, I wasn't ready. But don't be afraid still to get help. Continue to get help. Listen to, it's a dicey thing. Sometimes I think sometimes when you're talking to your friends too, because you don't want you're afraid to tell your friends because you don't want them to get mis you're like, I don't want to tell my friends this because they'll look badly on this relationship or whatever like that. But when you got good friends, they'll stand behind you regardless of whatever. They're waiting there patiently for you to make your decision when it's your time. So don't be afraid to get some good girlfriends, some good guy friends if you're a guy and you're going through this too. I mean, it happens. Um, get some good friends that you know that will still be there through thick and thin and just be there like that when it does happen they're like we were just waiting, and being there for you. That's really the most important thing. And then when it's time to do it however you need to do it. I know some people are like, it's got to be face to face, and I got to be brave, and I got to do all these things. If you don't have I don't want to say strength, but if you don't have, that's not the way that you can get the job done, then do it the way you got to get the job done. And don't be ashamed of that. I know texting and all of this, everybody's like, oh, you know what? When I was in rehab and it was time to break up with that abusive relationship, my counselor was like, do it however you got to do it. If you got to send a text message, send a text message and then block him. You don't owe him anything else at this point. And so that's what I did. And I mean, thank God. I mean, he called me like I felt like unblocked him because that's me, right? And a week later, he called me and said, "You know what? You'll never stay sober." And that was my moment of just going, "Wait a minute. This person doesn't support anything that I'm doing." And for me, that was fuel for my fire. It was okay, watch me. And here I am, October will be 14 years later. So, you know what? You do it the way you got to do it, but and don't beat yourself up for being there. I guess that's the other advice I would say. If you're in a dumpster fire, don't blame yourself, don't shame yourself for being there, and it takes what it takes when it takes. That's all I can,
And
I'll get off my
sometimes
soapbox now.
sometimes when we start to change, and so like my marriage actually got worse after I found Al-Anon and started to change some dysfunctional patterns on my end and starting to set boundaries. And I was having a conversation with somebody a couple weeks ago, and I was like, they were like, when is it going to be my time? I hear this a lot from women in midlife. When is it going to be my time? I have spent decades raising kids and being a wife and putting everybody else first. When is it going to be my time? Right? Like Goonies. this is our time. That's women in midlife. We didn't realize that Goonies was going to be our movie. It's our time. But I was like, hey, when you start to put yourself first, like your relationships are going to change. Period. End of story. Because all of your relationships go are based on the assumption that things are going to stay the same and we're going to behave a certain way. And when you change that, it has a ripple effect on your relationships, which can be good and bad because it can give you that clarity that you need. But one thing that I will say is it might be fear that, first of all, you are never unlovable. So if that thought enters your mind when you are thinking about walking away and choosing yourself, that is never true. You are never unlovable. You are never someone who's not worthy of love. But sometimes we need to go inside and start to work on that for ourselves, building that foundation in ourselves of self-worth. And we could come out of that with like very much in debt of our in credit card debt in our self-worth department, bank account. And so that can take a lot of time. But when you do that work and come to a relationship with that sense of self, you will tolerate a lot less. And it changes your future relationships. And when you do decide to part ways, it can be done in a way that you don't need to character assassinate the other person, or not that people do that. I mean, you can just part ways and be like, this is what's best. I love you and I want what's best for you, and that's not me, and that's okay, right? Like I think that that is like the hallmark of a good split of I care about you enough to realize that I'm not meeting your needs, but I also care about myself to realize that I'm not getting what I want, or that this is not workable. And so you go your separate ways.
Mm,
And so you're be able to move on in peace instead of doubting everything about yourself.
mm. I also think that when you do have a sense of self, and as I said, you do kind of have your non-negotiables, because there are, the list will change of what you need from someone and what they should bring. I also think you attract a different person,
Mm-hmm.
because
Hmm.
I've seen that with myself. The people that I attracted in my teens and 20s, and then my 30s, and then who I attract and who I married in my 40s, completely different. Absolutely completely different.
That's an excellent point.
So there is that, because I hear, even with some of the clients that I've coached, they seem to attract the same type of guy. And we're just going to say guys. Haven't coached anyone who's, same-sex relationships. And I'm just like, all right, we need to switch it up. There needs to be a change. There needs to be a switch. And there needs to be a change in the non-negotiables and everything like that. And they're like, but how do I do that? And I'm just like, well, you have to kind of decide what's going to be important for you now, because you've gone through all these things with other people, and hasn't worked. And I have a very good friend of mine who always attracts narcissists. And I'm like, you need to change this. We need to flip this switch, because they are not the right people for you. But then, Mr. Nice Guy never gets a look in, right? But Mr. Nice Guy, is a guy that they really need. But no, I'm just going to go with the narcissist. So I think also, again, changing what you're looking for and just kind of tweaking it, definitely going to attract different people.
But I think we have to do the healing, because I
Yeah.
think the reason why the narcissists are attractive is because that's a familiar pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where the deep work of therapy comes in, of healing those past traumas and figuring out what that dysfunctional pattern is so that you can move forward, become a different person where the nice guys become more attractive to you. Does that make sense? So
Hmm.
if you're still attracting, if your picker is broken, go to therapy and figure out why the picker's broken,
Yeah.
because there's
Yeah.
something there where it's attracting you back to that familiar pattern. That's my theory.
Yeah. Plus
Yeah.
narcissists, they're exciting. As you said, you don't know what you're gonna get. Like Forrest Gump, box of chocolates. But I think we need to go to the uncomfortable question.
Yes.
So, are you more afraid of being alone than you are of being mistreated?
I'm going to say no. Like, because I've been alone for, I mean, I've dabbled in relationships the last couple of years, but I've spent largely a lot of time alone. And I would rather be alone than be mistreated.
Hmm. What about you, Michelle?
I think I'm going to be the same. I know now that I know my red flags, now that I've experienced what I've experienced, yeah, no, I do not want to be mistreated. And I would rather just hang out with the friends that I know are not going to mistreat me and we're going to have fun. And so yeah, I'd rather just be alone. I'd rather be the spinster with the cats, even though I'm allergic to cats, but it's okay.
You can have stuffed animal cats.
And I'm comfortable being by myself, which I think is a different thing than being alone. I'm
Mhm.
definitely comfortable being by, like, with myself, and I cherish that and that sort of thing. So, I mean, I don't like to be mistreated, and I myself am still, there's so many things being explored right now, and I think that, I don't, I this is a difficult question actually for me. It's a difficult question. So, I'm not saying I'm being mistreated or anything like that, but I think that I across the board have allowed people to mistreat me and have, friends, family, relationships, all across the board have allowed people to mistreat me in a lot of different ways. And maybe it is a fear of being alone. So it's something I continue to work on. And, there's no shame in that game.
There is no shame. Are we on
So
to quotes now?
yeah. I mean, create the life that you want to be, right? So like a recent relationship that ended, I'm like, "Oh, but I really love the things that we did together." And I'm like, "Why can't I do those things as
Yeah.
outside of that relationship? Why can't I take those lovely things forward into like I really like that aspect of the failed relationships are teachers."
You would
Yep.
hope. You would
Yeah.
hope.
Well, I mean, they should be, right?
They should be. Whether they are is another question.
We could talk about this for another hour.
I'm
Okay,
so
who
sorry.
has a
All right.
quote? I know. I'm like, we need to wrap
On to
up.
the quotes.
All right, who's got a quote?
Um, I did, and now I've forgotten what it is. So someone go first.
I'm actually not going to do a quote today. I'm going to do plug, or not a plug, but if you're in a domestic relationship, an abusive relationship, there's help. There's a hotline. I'm going to give the hotline number. It's 1-800-799-SAFE, SAFE. They also have where you can text the word START, START, to 88788. I know we don't normally talk about these types of things, but I think I talked about it enough today that it would be, it's something I need to say today. So they have a website as well. They also have a way that you can go in anonymously if you're being tracked, if your history is being tracked. So there's all kinds of things that they've got going on out there. So it's help is available. Um, Reach out and definitely at least pursue, dip your toe in the water to see what's available to you and see what your options are.
And I'll put that in the show notes. Thank you, Doree. I think that's really
Yeah.
responsible. I'm gonna give you pick a quote, girl. Like I think that is a very responsible. Thank you for including that. And one thing that I just want to say is it might seem really hard and impossible to leave, but the universe will show up. If you start when you start to choose yourself, the universe shows up to support you.
So my quote is going to be, how people treat you is their karma, how you react is yours. And that's by Wayne Dyer.
wise Wayne Dyer.
Hmm.
I'm going to quote George Washington. It is far better to be alone than to be in bad company.
Hmm. Yeah, it is, it is, it is. I feel like we're like at this point of, oh.
Doree, if you have one that you see that you want to speak into existence.
I think I'm just going to leave it with that, if
All
that's
right.
okay, you guys.
That's totally fine. Thank you for sharing those resources. That was really I appreciate that. All right. What are we talking about next time?
Well, we are talking about signs of a healthy relationship. So we're gonna like turn the tables a little bit, get a little bit more positive about what are the signs of a healthy one. We've had them. We have them. We're still working through some in other areas, and you know what? We'll talk about it and hopefully bring some bright light.
Like we have friends that have them if we don't have them.
Stop.
No, you know what? I do have healthy relationships. I know that that tough question sounded like I'm like a constant, but no, I have some healthy relationships and am in healthy relationships. Not everyone is, they're not
They're not
all.
perfect. They're healthy relationships are never perfect, but they're healthier than what we've discussed today.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, so we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Until then,
Bye-bye.
Take
bye.
care. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Life Coaches Unfiltered. If you love this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or follow us on social media. Got a question you've been afraid to ask? Send it our way at lifecoachesunfiltered@gmail.com. Until next time, keep growing, keep questioning, and stay unfiltered.